If you fall into any of these personality categories, research shows you are more likely to tear up over things most people consider small. Let's start. Number 1, highly sensitive person. If you are the kind of person who notices every small shift in someone's mood, every change in the atmosphere, every tiny detail other people ignore, then you probably already know how quickly your emotions rise. You walk into a room and your body understands the energy before your brain even interprets it. When you react strongly, people around you sometimes say things like, "You take everything too personally," or "You get emotional over nothing," as if your sensitivity is some kind of flaw you should fix. But psychology tells a very different story. Highly sensitive people have a nervous system that processes emotional and sensory information more deeply than the average brain. Research shows HSPs have stronger amygdala activation, which means emotional signals hit harder and travel faster. Your brain does not filter emotional stimuli, it amplifies them. A sad look, a meaningful sentence, a shift in tone, these inputs are interpreted at full volume. Tears are not meltdown, they are the natural release of a nervous system that absorbs more emotional data per second than most humans can imagine. You cry easily because your system is high resolution, not fragile. Number 2, people with an internalizer personality style. If you are someone who keeps everything inside, your worries, your fears, your frustrations, then you already know how heavy silent emotions can become. You do not lash out, you do not explode, you do not cause scenes, you hold it together. You think through every detail quietly. And then, out of nowhere, one small moment breaks you open and the tears finally come. People often say, "You never talk about your feelings," or "Why are you crying now when nothing happened?" They do not see the pressure that has been building for days, weeks, sometimes even years. Psychology explains that internalizers process emotions inward instead of expressing them outward. Your brain activates deeper rumination circuits, meaning you think intensely but release very little. This creates emotional buildup, like a closed container filling slowly until it can no longer hold anything more. Science shows internalizers experience stronger physiological stress responses because unexpressed emotions stay in the body longer. So when tears finally arrive, it is not random. It is the moment your emotional system chooses release over collapse. Number 3, introverts. If you are the kind of person who needs time alone to breathe, reset, and understand your own emotions, then you already know how heavy the world can feel when everything becomes too loud. You might stay quiet during conflict, you might overthink conversations long after they end, and you might prefer to feel things privately rather than in front of others. People often say things like, "Why are you so sensitive?" or "You get emotional too fast," without realizing how much internal pressure you carry before a single tear falls. Psychology explains this clearly. Introverts process emotions internally through deeper neural pathways. Their prefrontal cortex stays more active, meaning every emotion gets analyzed, compared, replayed, and mentally expanded. This turns small emotional experiences into heavy internal loads. Add overstimulation, noise, conflict, social demands, and the introvert brain burns out quickly. When emotional overload peaks, the brain switches from analysis to release, and tears become the fastest way to reset the system. Number 4, anxious preoccupied attachment. If you are someone who worries about being misunderstood, abandoned, or not enough, then emotional moments hit you with double force. You feel every shift in someone's tone, every delay in their reply, every cold moment in their behavior. You overthink small conflicts, replay conversations at night, and feel tears rising when you sense someone pulling away. People often say things like, "You get attached too fast," or "You're too emotional in relationships," as if your reactions are exaggerated. But psychology paints a clearer picture. Anxious, preoccupied attachment forms when your nervous system has learned to stay on alert for emotional danger. Your amygdala becomes hyperattuned to signs of disconnection, and your body reacts before you even understand why. Science shows these individuals carry a heightened fear response system. Their brains release stress signals quickly, their emotions intensify rapidly, and tears come as a natural attempt to soothe overwhelming anxiety. Number 5. People with trauma backgrounds. If you grew up walking on emotional eggshells, always scanning for danger or unpredictable reactions, then your body learned to survive by feeling everything intensely. You might cry when someone raises their voice, when plans suddenly change, or even when someone shows you kindness you never received before. People might say, "You overreact," or "You get emotional too fast." Psychology explains this with painful clarity. Trauma rewires the nervous system into a state of hypervigilance, where your brain stays on high alert even in safe moments. The stress response system fires faster, the emotional centers activate more intensely, and your body remembers old threats even when your mind knows you are no longer in danger. Science shows tearfulness is not weakness in trauma survivors, it is a physiological release from a nervous system that has been overloaded for years. Number 6. Creative and intuitive personalities. If you are the kind of person who sees meaning where others see routine, who connects dots others never notice, and who feels life in colors instead of plain facts, then your emotions run deeper than you often admit. You sense moods, metaphors, unspoken tension, all the invisible things that shape a moment. People may say, "You're too emotional," or "You take things too seriously." Psychology explains this beautifully. Creative and intuitive personalities have highly active default mode networks, the brain regions responsible for imagination, memory, and emotional symbolism. This means your inner world is vivid, layered, and emotionally alive. When something touches you, it does not just brush your feelings, it immerses you completely. Science shows creative brains have stronger cross-connections between emotional and sensory areas, which makes you more reactive to beauty, sadness, music, memories, and even subtle human expressions. You cry easily because your mind paints emotions in high saturation, not grayscale. Number 7. Neurodivergent types, ADHD, Autism spectrum. If you are someone whose mind runs fast, whose senses pick up every sound and movement, or who feels overwhelmed by things others barely notice, then your emotions often rush to the surface before you can control them. You might cry when routines break, when someone misunderstands your intentions, or when sensory overload becomes too much. People may say things like, "You need to toughen up," or "You react too quickly," without understanding how your brain processes the world. Psychology and neuroscience are very clear on this. Neurodivergent brains have lower emotional filters and less predictable regulation patterns. In ADHD, the emotional centers respond faster than the executive centers that would normally calm them down. In autism, sensory sensitivity is heightened. Noises, lights, textures, social confusion all create internal overwhelm. Science shows that these brains experience flooding, where too much input arrives at once and tears become a natural release valve. You cry because your brain is working overtime every single day, managing a world built for a different wiring than your own. Number 8. Empath. If you are someone who feels other people's pain as if it is happening inside your own body, then emotional moments never stay on the outside for you. A sad expression, a trembling voice, someone trying to hide their hurt, these things hit you harder than they hit most people. You might cry when someone else is crying, or even when they are trying not to cry. People often say things like, "You're too emotional for your own good," or "Why do you feel things that aren't even yours?" But psychology has a clear explanation. Your mirror neuron system is unusually active. These are the brain cells responsible for empathy, emotional resonance, and understanding what someone feels without needing them to explain. For empaths, the emotional signal becomes so strong that your body reacts as if the experience is happening directly to you. Neurobiology shows that your brain lights up in the same areas as the person you are observing. Their sadness becomes your sadness, their stress becomes your stress. Number 9. Ambiverts under stress. If you are usually balanced, sometimes social, sometimes quiet, then people assume you handle emotions smoothly. But when life gets overwhelming, your mood shifts fast and your reactions become unpredictable even to you. You might cry over small things when your energy is drained, or shut down completely when you reach your limit. People may say, "You're not usually like this," or "You're being extra emotional today," without realizing how much pressure has been building inside you. Psychology explains that ambiverts switch between introverted and extroverted processing modes depending on their environment. Under stress, this internal switching becomes unstable and your emotional regulation fluctuates. Your nervous system has to work twice as hard managing overstimulation like an introvert and social pressure like an extrovert. Science shows that this dual processing style makes you more vulnerable to emotional overload when you are tired or stressed. Tears come because your system hits its threshold, not because you lack strength. Number 10. Perfectionists or sensitive perfectionists. If you are someone who pushes yourself hard, who hates disappointing others, who feels responsible for every detail, then emotional overwhelm becomes a quiet shadow in your everyday life. You expect a lot from yourself. You replay mistakes long after they happen. And when things fall apart, even slightly, the frustration or shame rises fast and suddenly tears slip out before you can stop them. People may say you're too hard on yourself or relax, it's not a big deal, without realizing how deeply you feel any gap between who you are and who you want to be. Psychology explains this clearly. Perfectionists link their self-worth to performance, so emotional stakes are higher in every task. Sensitive perfectionists feel this even more intensely because their emotional processing is already active and reactive. Neuroscience shows their brains trigger stress hormones more quickly when expectations are not met, not because they fear failure, but because failure feels personal. The emotional load becomes heavy, and crying acts as a release valve for pressure that has built up quietly over time. Your tears do not mean you lack strength, they mean you care more than people realize. I'll be sharing more videos on emotional and behavioral psychology. Subscribe so you do not lose this space of understanding.